If you were starting in
build
real
data
estate
like that.
right now and you walked into an agency and they said, yep, come on board, here's a phone, here's a desk, what would you do?
What I would do is that
I think agents struggle to actually know what to even call a buyer about. Do you task to call a buyer every week?
yeah, for sure. No one's bigger than the team. Everyone has to put their hand up and everyone wants to put their hand up to do things.
A challenge for a lot of agents is just knowing what calls to make because they listen to podcasts, Tom Panos and other trainers saying, just make the calls, 100 calls a day. And I think a lot of agents, they sit there and they go, look, I don't even have 100 calls to make. Agents, welcome to the Get Keen podcast, your number one destination for learning how to get the most out of your real estate career. I'm Dan Lee, founder of Plum Property, one of Queensland's largest independent real estate offices, and Plum Partners, where we've helped dozens of agents create, run and grow their very own agencies. On Get Keen, I chat to high-performing agents, principals, and agency owners, so you have the tools, strategies, and insights to grow your business and live the best life for yourself and your family. Now let's get keen. All right, welcome back to Get Keen, baby. Yeah. In this episode, this is a bit of a special one because we're all about calls. You know I love calls, cold calls, hard work, the grind. Well, this man right here sitting across from me, Rob Watson, he is known as the grind man. They call you that.
Yeah.
In the
Keen.
in the office. They call you grinder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For calls.
Yeah. So, Rob, you've been in the office like 5 years. You started off as, what was it, an internship?
Yeah, I was doing social media content for Dan. Yeah.
You used to put my face on movie titles.
Yeah, I
then-
sent you one the other day of the Lion King one.
Oh, that's where that came from. Did you do that all the way back then?
Yeah, that was ages ago.
Holy. Yeah, so Rob came into the business, not really even to get into real estate, but he was just so good with people, just so good to have around. I thought, mate, you've got the personality for real estate. And he said, oh, what the hell? I'll give it a shot because he'd just finished uni. And he was my associate for about a year and a bit. And then him and Lewis Jones, who's on the Plum team as well, they decided to band together and form a team. I'll tell you what, this team, which is called the Lewis Jones team, because you have to have the lead agent as the face of the team, but the team as a whole, I think, is one of the highest performing teams up and coming in Brisbane. And I'm telling you, you will see these guys on stages in a couple of years because the level of work that they achieve together is phenomenal, and the results that they're getting, they haven't even been together for more than 2 years yet, and they've gone from zero to they'll do 100 deals this year, would you say?
Yeah, probably like 120 odd. Yeah.
And Rob himself's on track to bring into the team about 800,000 GCI as part of the overall team. So I wanted to talk about team structure and what actually the roles of the team and things like that. So first of all, what is it that makes the team, your team, so successful?
I think accountability, morally, no one's bigger than someone else. That gets hard. I think when you get in any line of business, there's always structures of you work for the man or whatever. When it comes to the team, everyone's on the same level. It's like if someone has to do something, you do it. It's just what it is,
Yeah.
And I guess no one gets stitched up, so to speak.
You're trying to minimize the bitching and whinging on the team by people thinking they're above or below or anything like that. You're all on the same level.
And on top of that, we're all really good mates. So that always helps.
I'm lucky to be a part of the jovial times that the team has, but, they celebrate success. They go out for team lunches. The bond is strong. And I think that you really need that when you've got that larger team because there's 6 on the team now.
Yeah, there's 6. And when we were working with Dan, we did have that camaraderie, whatever it's called, as well. I think it's just when you get bigger, that gets harder. And yeah, now with 6, it's a lot more to take on board, I guess.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's really easy just to have an associate or even 2, but when there's 6, there's a lot of people that everyone's got feelings and those feelings can be lost when there's so many people and that's when it gets disjointed. But you're talking about standards and accountability. So what standards do the team have now?
Yeah, well, the big one is no one's bigger than the team, you know? So, everyone has to put their hand up and everyone wants to put their hand up to do things. There's lots of things you don't want to do in real estate. You don't want to wake up early. You don't want to go home late. But at the end of the day, if you want to be successful, you got to do those things. But yeah, I think the big thing when dealing with everyone would just be if there's an argument, even for instance, it's like, well, move on from that. We're all mates. Like, you want the best for everyone at the end of the day.
And for activity during the day, standards, there's a lot of people making calls on the team. How many people are making calls every day?
All of us, including Lou. But I guess Lou will deal more, vendor managing as well as just kind of
Vendors about to come
closing
on.
business.
Yeah.
Yeah, all that jazz. And then, Jezzy, Corn, Rhino, we're all dealing with lots of calls constantly.
You don't have to call them their nicknames. No one knows.
No, that's what it is. These are their names. This is their identity.
So there's 4 of you making calls plus Louis. There's 5 people making calls on this team every day. How many calls are you guys making?
Over 100, definitely.
100 a day each.
Massive day, 130, 140. Small day, 70 would be pretty bad.
And how do you keep track of how many calls everyone's making?
We got an app. We got Sales Trail.
Sales Trail.
So it's just like it registers how many connects you've had, how many calls you've done, how much time on phone.
That's great because that's a good way to keep everyone accountable on the team for how many calls they've made.
Yeah. And when we have targets as well, it's not individually, because then you don't want to be micromanaging. You don't want anyone to feel like shit. You might have to go out to building a pests, do valuations, blah, blah, blah. Your day will have spanners in the work.
Yeah.
But it's just the consistency at the end of the week being like, okay, cool. We need to have at least anywhere from like 1,700 to 2.2 calls.
Yeah, for the whole team.
For the whole team.
Yeah, okay. So there you go, 1,700 to 2,200 calls a week. That's what the team is doing. This is why this team has managed to go from nothing to doing 100 deals in a year and a half. It's incredible the amount that these guys get through. So I think a challenge for a lot of agents is just knowing what calls to make because they get told, they listen to podcasts like this and Tom Panos and other trainers saying, just make the calls, 100 calls a day. And I think a lot of agents, they sit there and they go, I don't even have 100 calls to make. How do you even make
there's always calls. I think it's more so, I will get to that, but I think it's just being motivated to do it. It's hard to call 100 people every day. But I guess when the results show, you're like, all right, this is foolproof. It works. This is my job. It's my life. I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
I think in terms of getting calls, you can get calls from anywhere. Like even if you've opened a property or someone else in your office has opened a property in the past. And like one of the big things, I guess, when we were first learning, we learned a bit from Bresic. And he was saying how buyer help is so massive. It's like, just go over an old OFI book, call everyone through it. Someone will be like, yeah, I'm still looking to buy something. Bang. That's a repetitive call every week you can make. And then you can get 20 of them out of a logbook, help those 20 people. Someone will buy something. They'll come back to you and be like, hey, can you help me sell my property now? But yeah, OFIs are a good one. OFI books. You can usually with CRM see like the stamp history when someone's actually called someone in the past, because obviously another thing in real estate, lots of people are protective and kind of think, oh, this is mine because, I did that. But if someone hasn't spoke to someone for 2 years, it's just dead data, call that person. You can go around to neighborhoods. Personally, I haven't done this, but I know lots of agents do this. They'll be like, hey, I'm coming along to your street on the weekend. You can get that data through lots of platforms like ID for Me or whatever subscriptions you want. And you just call those people and say, hey, I'm going to be in the area. Can I come along? Or you could do that cold, just knock on doors. Just be like, hey, I'm doing updates. Can I get your number and email? Like always, I know you're not selling.
So if you were starting in real estate right now and walked into an agency and they said, yep, come on board. Here's the phone. Here's a desk. You've got to make it. What would you do?
I'd negotiate my contract straight away, be like, hey, any old data over a year, can I call that? If that agency said no, I'd be out of there.
Yeah.
Because it's like, how am I going to get my calls?
Yeah.
So, and everyone will let you do that, I would hope and assume, but excuse me.
So you reckon that old data is like some of the best gold in there?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Like we're lucky enough to do so much business now that lots of the people we're talking to have come through our properties. They've made offers and missed out, and they're hot and you can talk to them about something else. So you get lots of opportunity that way. It's like a snowball, like anything. But yeah, I would say you just want data. Like real estate firms have so much data of people they meet on weekends, and you don't have to be this sleazy person. You can literally just say, hey, just calling you. We haven't spoke before. You've come through one of our properties in the past. I was just seeing if you were in the market at all, whether that be, don't even mention sell, just be like buy, looking for an investment, or do you have any property you're looking to rent? Would love to help out if I can.
And it's just opening the conversation.
No, 100%.
Over 100. How many of them just lead to nothing at the time?
Yeah, it depends on the type of call. Like, if I was a buy help, they don't lead to nothing because eventually you're going to help them buy. But I think things like, from the cold calls, I reckon 95% are going to go nowhere.
Yeah.
But 5%. Dan gave an analogy, I remember years ago, saying, if you pick up a big book of calls and there's 1,000 calls in it and you sell one of those properties, however much, $1 million, that's 30 odd grand. Would you do a book of calls for 30 grand? That takes you 2 weeks. 100%.
Yeah.
In a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But
if someone said, you call all those people, you're going to get 30 grand, you'd call them. But people don't do it because it's
rejection,
not a guarantee.
all that stuff.
Rejection,
it's hard.
they don't know. They can't see the call that's going to give them the 30 grand.
Oh, what a monotonous, sedentary task to do all day,
What calls do you do most of, do you think?
At the moment, if I'm just thinking about the calls, we've got a property in St. Lucia, just finding everyone in the database that has a property that's this isn't very exciting, not going to jump out of your seat, but who has a 2-bed, 2-bath property. Just call them. I'll say, hey, we just listed this property. It's on X and Y street. I don't know if you're in the market at the moment, but lots of people we speak to are interested in property. Would you mind if I let you know what it sells for?
Okay, so it's a just listed call. You're calling other people in the area that have a similar property to let them know about the listing, and you're just asking if they're interested in property prices. And
you're just planting a seed.
Planting
a
seed.
And then after that, you're like, wow, yeah, we called a couple of weeks ago. I called about X and Y street. Couldn't believe it, but we had 40 groups through. There were 10 offers on the property. I'm not sure what your 2-bed is like, but this one went for X and Y. Let's say theirs is worth 600. This one sold for 750. Immediately they go, maybe mine's 750, and then go for an update on their property.
Yeah. Okay. So you guys are relentless with this. Every listing, every sale, there's a certain amount of calls around the property. Just listed, just sold. Is there a process the team follows?
Yeah, there's definitely a process.
What is that?
From getting the property to selling it to getting more property.
Yeah, so
out of it.
what prospecting would need to be done on a property from the team?
So let's use that St. Lucia property just as an example.
Yeah.
So we listed that because, there might be 3 ways that comes about. It might be an inquiry to the Lewis Jones team online. Be like, hey, we got a property we want to sell. It's X and Y street. Louis, being the killer he is, he'll probably get it. And then that's one avenue to get the listing. Another way would have been just we've just sold something else. Hey, we just sold this. Sweet. We're thinking of selling. Bang.
I'm talking about when it's listed.
When it's listed.
What are all the prospecting things that your team's
so you're doing
done?
your just listeds, you're doing your LBDs, you're notifying hot buyers, you're doing text out to previous properties.
Can we go through some numbers?
How many people are you reaching?
Yeah, how many letterbox drops would you do? How many just listed calls would you do?
You do 100 ahead in the core area surrounding the property. You got 6 people on the team, that's 600 LBDs. But you might even not want to go that big. Maybe just get 4 of us to do it. 2 people don't. They rest. They go on to the next one.
Yeah.
So maybe 400. After you've done all the LBDs, you're doing all your just listed calls. You're probably doing, maybe 500 to 1,000.
500 to 1,000 calls around the whole neighborhood.
That's between 5 people. Yeah,
you're specifically targeting the properties that are similar.
Yeah, for sure.
Or just any property.
Yeah, no, a lot of those calls, if they're that type of call, lots of people, lots of property that's like that. If it's to a buyer, obviously they don't own property. So you'll just be like, hey, you came through X and Y. Now we've got X and Y. I think you'll really like it. This has, the same courtyard area you're looking for. They're going to be looking for similar numbers. I know if you came in an offer with that, if it's unconditional in nature like the last one, you'd have a really good shot. Get heaps of people hyped up. You might get 16 to 20 of those. Maybe, honestly, 6 show up out of those people, even though they say they're hot and they've offered on previous property. You just don't know what people's lives are doing throughout the week. But you'll do those, the buyer calls, the cold calls, anyone thinking of selling soon, you'll be like, hey, this one's coming up, even if it's not in their core area, but they have a similar property and you've got all your tags and whatnot on your CRMs to call those people just so it stays relevant, even if the property's not that relevant. If they have a 3 better and this is a 2 better, you know, and it's in the same suburb, screw it, I'm calling them.
Yeah.
Irrelevant, let's go. But yeah, I think that would be all the like heavy prospecting.
Just that's a lot of avenues.
Yeah,
right?
for sure,
It's huge. And I'm sure many agents listening to this, that they're just kind of overwhelmed. Like there's no way I could get through that amount of calls because I'm just on my own. But what you
But
can.
that's the thing. I think that when you're dealing with real estate, and I've been in this rut, and I think everyone has, it's you just don't do it because you don't do it.
Yeah.
Because there's a video on Instagram you want to watch instead.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
like there's a game of footy on, well, probably not footy or whatever other sport.
You did 100 calls yesterday and you didn't get much out of it. And then the next day you're just feeling a bit deflated and don't want to go through all that
that's
again.
another massive kick in the nuts.
That's a big one.
I've been to you with that stuff.
Yeah,
Like, oh.
you've been to me many times when you just gone, you know, Dan, for 2 days I've been calling and no one wants to talk to me, and what's going on? Is it the marketplace? Is it this? And
then bang.
and
Yeah.
then I just say, mate, just don't worry about it. It's just like
Don't worry about it. Have a couple of weeks off. We'll get back into it next time.
Don't worry about it. Just clean out your desk. Don't come
You're
back.
fired.
Yeah. But yeah, 2 days later, you'll come back to me and go, exactly what you said. Just keep going. And then it just turns around. Sometimes you just have this run of bad luck where no one wants to talk to you for some reason. Who knows? It's the moon and the sea doing something weird with the air and making everyone grumpy that day. But you just have these days and there's no explaining it. But no one wants to talk to you. And you're like, is it the weather? Is it the market? Is it because it's Wednesday? And don't try and answer it. It's just one of those days. No one wants to talk to you because you're just having a run of bad luck. But then 2 days later, you do the same calls and you might get 5 really hot opportunities on the same
100%.
day.
It's not just sales. Like when you're thinking of real estate or any job,
Yeah.
you're thinking, how am I going to make a buck?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, there's listings in that, but there's, you know, finance referrals, there's buyer's agent referrals, you know, there's the sale itself. There's a lot of avenues, you know, so.
But I love those days when you're like, Dan, listen to this. Called this guy, Corey, this morning, came through the property in St. Lucia, has a property over here. Going on appraisal day, going to list that one. Bang. Then I got a call from Fiona. You know,
She still hates me.
Yeah.
Shit.
Then I got a call from Gordon. You remember that
I've
guy?
lost that
sold his
business.
ass.
Bang.
I didn't get that. Lost that to the new guy.
Yeah,
no,
no,
but
no.
you're just like rolling off
Yeah.
6 big
It comes in
opportunities.
runs,
and it
100%.
comes in
I
runs.
think
And you
that-
might have 6 things going at once. You're just like on
100%.
fire. And then the next week you're like, no one wants to talk to me.
Yeah, and don't get complacent.
Yeah.
Like as soon as you're getting a lot of business, that's when you're going to get even more. And you're thinking, you know, lots of people will be sitting there being like, sweet, I'm going to get some paychecks in. You know, that's awesome. I'm going to relax for a bit, go half as hard, then it just goes quiet again.
Hey guys, just quickly, if you're loving this content and you're a real estate agent that's already thinking what it might be like to have your own real estate business and brand, then check out the show notes. There'll be a link to our Plum Partners website where you can leave an inquiry and me or one of my team members will reach out. We help agents to create, run, and grow their own real estate business and brand so they can earn more and set up a better future for themselves. So get keen, get in touch. Now let's get back to the episode. Can we do some examples of the calls that you would make? Because you do a lot of buyer work, hey?
Yeah,
You'll talk-
I did a lot of buyer work in the past and probably a new focus for this year to get back on it. It's definitely a cheat code in real estate. It's like I want to talk to people who want to talk to me. And like if I can help someone, they're going to hopefully want to help me. Sometimes they don't.
For sure. So with the buyer work, you're looking to service buyers that are in the market that are genuine buyers. Yeah, and you can't.
Yeah, they've got to be hot.
It's how do you determine if they're hot?
Well, they've put an offer on property. They're pre-approved. You ask
Yeah.
them, if I found you the perfect property tomorrow that's just like that one, would you make an offer on it? 100%. If you find another one like that and they don't make an offer on it,
Maybe they're not hot.
Maybe they're
Okay. So how many hot buyers would you work with at any one time, like, and repetitively call?
at capacity, probably the best I've done is 20. I know
Yeah.
some people who are, you know, masters at it, you listen to on other podcasts, like that Ollie Lavers bloke who's just crushing it now. He was doing like, I think 50. at a
50
time.
hot buyer, yeah.
But like, you know,
But he'd probably
He'd probably
be
have
just
awesome
he'd probably
systems, been doing
and
it for ages, like-
to do 50, you'd literally like probably only be doing buyer
yeah,
work.
it's also their
you know?
market. You know, they're probably dealing with a 6 million plus market, and it's like, cool, I can find X amount just looking for that type of thing, then X amount looking for this type of thing.
Yeah.
You know, and it's more particular and you can craft better. And
Like, I think agents like struggle to actually know what to even call a buyer about. So how do you work it? Do you task to call a buyer every week?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
So like,
And then what will you call up and say? Like, what do you do?
yeah, that's always the hardest thing because you're like, well, what if you're sitting at home right now and you're like, oh, I don't have property. We're not selling heaps and heaps of property. Like, tell them about other people's property. They love that.
Yeah,
Tell
okay.
them about something they're looking for and being like, hey, this one just sold. It's exactly what you're after. It went for $760. I know you can pay $800 at the moment. Do you reckon that's a good buy? Yeah, I do. Sweet. Well, I just heard about this other one. Or did you go on realestate.com today? I saw this one. I guess what we do, or what I would do at the moment, is that we have a whiteboard for all the property that we're about to list that's not on the market yet, with the dates of when they do launch. I'll craft a text and have subcategories being like, okay, this is a buyer 700 to 800,000. And then I'll just make the text in my notes being like, good morning, such and such. And then you can obviously change the name and day of time, blah, blah, blah. And then be like, these are all the following properties that we have coming on. I'll put the property address and a rough price bracket being like 700 to 800K. And then I'll just copy paste that whole message. I've got my buyers saved in a category of my phone of like hot buyers. And then they'll have like a price bracket next to them. I'll click on that price bracket, send it to those people. And then you just do that accordingly to whatever property. When you're calling people, hey, did you see the text I sent out? They're the ones we've got coming on. I can get you through earlier. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, right. So that's a good point you made. You don't have to have the property for them to call the buyer. A lot of buyers just want some help
Just help people.
talking about property. They don't have an agent that wants to talk to them about property, and they necessarily know what they're doing out there. And
and the amount of times people are like, wait, so I get nothing out of it? Like, do I have to pay you for this? And you're like, no, I'm just helping you.
yeah,
It's like, that's so powerful. I
yeah,
reckon.
yeah. Because like no other agent wants to just help them.
Well, yeah, and agents have such a shitty cred. We're scumbags in the eyes of most people, which is shame.
It is a shame.
Just because I guess when, people in you hear it a lot with, I guess, some people in the medical field as well. You hear some stories of, I guess it's money, just if people make lots of money, sometimes they go a bit weird.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, it's just a matter of keeping your head down, not focusing on that side of things and just remembering what gets you to that place. And that's just ultimately
Really good
people.
service
Yeah.
and helping. Yeah. But, talking about other agents' properties, you really just help them make an offer on something. If you've got no listings, find buyers that want to buy something. I've seen you do it before. You've gone and met a buyer at a property to walk him through another agent's property just to give him advice on what you thought about the property, how it was, the construction.
I haven't done that heaps of times because I know as well, maybe for an agent, they might be like, oh, why is this guy at my property with a buyer, blah, blah, blah. Not that that's the intention, but hence you kind of keep that in the back of your head. But if there is a property that's perfect for someone, yes, I've done that before. Sometimes they ask you like, again, why are you helping us? It's like, then you do lay your cards on the table sometimes and say, hey, look, you're going to buy a property one day. And I hope you remember me and not the agent you dealt with for 2 hours who was trying to rot you out of every cent you had.
Yeah.
I guess that's like I had that with a client we sold for in Toowong this morning. Shout out to Josh. And he called me this morning about a property, an area I don't really know much of. And we just chatted about it. I said, yeah, I think that's a good offer. Just asked, how do I do the offer process? It's like, yeah, this is it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think that holds a lot of value.
It absolutely does. And this is what, I'm trying to drill into agents out there is about providing favors and great service to people that
Talk to people who want to talk to you.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Even don't think commission breath. Like, don't think money.
Just
be like, it'll come around.
It will come.
They'll tell you to a friend.
Yeah.
It's like,
How many times have you had properties referred to you, sisters, brothers, friends,
heaps.
from buyers?
Not just me, the whole team.
Yeah.
Like all the guys are doing this every day. It's like, yeah, it works.
You just don't know where the opportunity is going to come from, hey, when you just talk to that many people and you focus on the ones that want to talk to you that are actually doing something and you genuinely just try and help them, whatever they're doing, with no promise of return. The return comes back.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
How long do you think it takes to see that sort
6
of
months?
6 months.
Yeah, I reckon 6 months, which is tough if you
When you're first starting, it
first
is tough because when you don't have listings, time goes very slow.
Yeah, for sure. And it's also just, like the tasks again, like what you're doing, like we're going to finish this meeting. We're going to go outside and crunch calls for, however many hours. And it's like something might not happen. And I think that's like a really big thing when thinking, am I going to get into sales? Am I going to do real estate? You're not just going to, be super successful. You're going to have to do really crappy work. It's like, but I'd rather do this than lay brick.
Yeah.
100%.
Sit in the aircon making calls. It's easy compared to all the other jobs out there.
100%.
What advice would you give to someone who's been selling a bit of property, they're on their own and they want to build the team like yours to 2, 3, 4 people?
Just be good to people.
Yeah.
Look after people.
And like the type of person that they need to get on the team, they want to make more calls. How do they get that person motivated to make the calls and
just like, I guess, lead by example?
Show them how to do it.
Yeah, and also just keep doing it every day. I think lots of agents will build a team around them, and then, I've heard this story with some friends who've gone to other real estate agencies, worked with other agents, and they've worked for someone who's probably made it to an extent that they can just hire someone and, feed through the rotation, so to speak, being like, hey, cool, this person's not cool enough, let's just fire them. We'll get someone else, pay them a X and Y salary and whatever.
Yeah.
We'll keep doing that. I think it's like, if you want to be successful and a good leader, and I remember talking to someone about this at a wedding I went to a couple of months ago, a really wealthy bloke, and he was just like, just look after people and lead by example and work really hard and everything will work out. It's like, sweet. It doesn't sound that hard, but it is.
It actually is. It's like, show up to work every day. That doesn't sound hard either, but it's the consistency which is really, really difficult. I mean, you must have days where you don't feel like doing it, right?
Yeah.
Because you make a lot of calls.
I do love my job though.
Yeah.
100%. It's awesome.
Yeah, you have a lot of fun doing it, which is why I think you're so good at it. Like I see you locked in a room, and I'll walk past, and we always do the funny face
Crying.
to each other. Yeah, you genuinely hands in your face, just like, and I can see you say through the window, "I hate this," mouthing it to me. But you have a lot of fun with it, and I think it's because you do it so much. There's no fear of what's going to happen on the other end of the call. Whatever happens, you're having fun with it, right? Would you say like that you genuinely have fun with these calls?
Yeah, it's great. I think it's also like, and I know this sounds super cliche, and I think heaps of people in this industry will say this, but it's awesome getting to know people and people wanting to talk, maybe I just like that, I'm just so alone. No, but it's nice to like meet new people, make new friends, and like help people. It's a very satisfying thing. And yes, when that's accompanied with money and good friendships and stuff, sweet, lock me in.
Yeah.
But I think that doesn't happen if you're, again, and it's so funny because it's literally the only thing to real estate. If you're not doing the work and you're not doing calls, you're not a glorified telemarketer or, telephone terrorist, whatever, those sayings are, it's like, then don't do it. Do something else.
Yeah.
Sweet. Be really good at something else.
Yeah. If you don't want to get on the phone and you don't want to prospect, like if that's not what you're doing every day, like 80% of the time,
literally nothing else to it.
There's no silver bullet, right?
There's nothing else to it. That's it. I guarantee you.
Make a lot of calls, be genuine, help people, and the opportunities come. You guys are masters at it. Thanks for joining us, mate.
Thanks, Dan.
There's heaps of value on this. Instagram's the best place to find Rob if you want to ask him any questions about the calls they make. Rob_Watson, WATSON_Plum. And Rob will be happy to answer any of your questions. Thanks, legend, for coming on the Get Keen podcast.
Yeah, get keen. Cheers, Dan.
Thank you for tuning into the Get Keen podcast. If today's episode inspired you, please show your support with a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And make sure you subscribe on your favorite platform too. Don't stop there. Join our community of forward thinkers by connecting with me on social media at Dan_Lee_Plum. I'm looking forward to exploring more strategies and insights with you on your journey to the top. Until next time, keep getting keen.